Welcome to the Gurukul lectures. Today we are going to discuss something related to the framework for strategy. Strategy is one term which has been used or is being used in different contexts, different ways, in different meanings. Whether it is the military strategy, whether it is the corporate strategy, whether it is the business strategy, or whether it is a functional strategy. Everybody, for their own understanding and in own convenient way, they talk about strategy, they use strategy some way with deliberate intention and sometimes casually. But let's know that for a business, strategy is an important term. A strategy is a plan of action towards the achievement of long-term goals. This is a long-term achievement, that long-term action that the various firms they try to apply in order to go for determining their long-term goals and objectives. As we said, the concept of a strategy was derived from the term called strategios, which is a Greek term, and which means general. The way we try to win our enemies, and therein it was adopted in the business. But in business, it is not only the competition, but it is all about reaching out and winning into the market, winning to the hearts of the customer, winning over the competition, of course, and creating, in now terms, creating a long-term sustainability for the organization. And therefore, when we talk of the concept of a strategy, it is about the determination of long-term goals and objectives. Many firms, or rather all the firms, they determine their long-term goals of how they are going to survive, how are they going to live in the marketplace, how they are going to thrive, and how they are going to create their own position. And therefore, they create their goals and objectives. And accordingly, for this purpose, they adopt certain course of actions. The course of actions which are aligned with the purpose of the organization. The strategy is defining these course of actions which are aligned with the purpose of the organization, and for that particular intent of adoption of the course of action, intent of achievement of the long-term goals, you need the resources. So, a strategy is also about identifying the right kind of resources that you require at the right time, at the right place. And henceforth, the concept of a strategy also involves allocation of the resources which are necessary for carrying out these goals, for achieving these long-term goals and objectives. Now, let us be very, very clear that we are not operating in a static environment. The total set of environment is changing day by day, minute by minute. The last few decades, few years have shown us that our world is changing very fast, and particularly with the information and technology, we are changing at a very fast rate. Now, the challenge is how to see that our long-term goals and objectives are achieved with the dynamics of the environment. So, strategy is adjusting to the dynamics of the environment. Our plan of action is all about changing the dynamics of the environment. Now, when we are talking of a strategy, we need to understand what type of company, what kind of company it is. And of course, with the focus upon future, what kind of company I should be. Let's take an example of a firm called Amazon. Amazon is started as a small venture startup firm wherein they started with supplying and creating an enabling environment to reach out to its customer by supplying books. From there, today, Amazon is one of the firms which is having its largest business in AWS. That is Amazon Business Services. Today, Amazon is foraying into customer service, it is into IT, it is into database, and Amazon is one of the biggest logistics firms competing with FedEx. Now, what do you think that Amazon ever thought of becoming such a huge big company? Did it had a strategy? Of course. When they started the business, they had this strategy by defining its marketplace. They knew what kind of competition they are in, what kind of base they are in, what kind of market they are in, and what they need to address as a market gap. And eventually, they kept of designing its growth, designing its market, and expanding. Expansion by the way of reaching out to the new sets of opportunities for growth, new sets of opportunities for acquisitions, new sets of opportunities for capturing new values to the customer. Ultimately, a business company has to have growth in terms of creating value for its customers, for its stakeholders. Now, herein, when there is a clutter of competition, where there are new opportunities which are squeezing down, what has to be your strategy? How do you define and describe your strategy? And therefore, the idea of a strategy starts with knowing and understanding what kind of company you are. Are you a new startup? What has to be your strategy? Are you a company which is on to becoming a unicorn? What kind of a strategy? Have you become a unicorn? What kind of a strategy? Are you a multi-business firm? What kind of a strategy? Are you a conglomerate? What kind of a strategy? And are you a huge, big, multinational firm? What has to be the strategy? And onto it, what kind of company you want to be? As a startup, what is your goal? What is your long-term goal? What industries, what sectors you want to be in? And therein, I need to have my strategic path accordingly. I need to know my strategy accordingly. So, the idea of a strategy starts with knowing what you are as a company and what kind of company you want to be. And therefore, when we are talking the strategy, we need to understand the competitive position of the firm. Who are your competitors? What set of competition you are dealing with? how aggressive your competition is? Or are you leading the competition? Are you defining the new way how the market is going to operate? Just for an example, what Reliance Jio did to the telecom market in India. The competitive position that was created by Reliance Jio in the telecom industry in India. When there were many players like Airtel, players like Vodafone, players like Idea, which were having a major say in the telecom industry, Reliance Jio created a disruption and targeted to the bottom of the pyramid, and with the choice of the technology changed the whole set of competitive disposition in the industry. And that is where you need to understand how are you going to define your competitive position. Are you going to be a leader? Are you going to be a follower? Are you going to be a laggard? Or are you going to see your own space? Are you going to see that you are creating the competitive cost-based leadership? Or you will define your own niche in the marketplace. We have examples of Lenskart, wherein in one specific industry, with the focus on giving vision to all the people of India and across the world, the company created a unique position and changed the way the industry of lenses, of the opticals, were being taken. Second is it defines the survival or the growth path. The strategy describes you how are you going to survive, what is going to be your growth path, how are you going to create either the cutthroat competition or are you going to create your own niche into the competition. Whether are you going to kill down the competition or whether you are going to create your own identity, whether you are going to get into a fierce fight with the competitors for the share of the pie or for the market share, or you will recreate a new market, recreate new businesses, recreate new opportunities, which will take the industry to the next level. We have examples like General Electric, which has been innovating with its R&D, creating new product opportunities, which is thinking in next 30-40 years of the opportunities in the marketplace. And then there are many firms across. And thus the strategy defines whether are you running your plan of action for your survival or for the growth, and accordingly how you are going to succeed. Thirdly, we must understand the strategy is all about your ethics of being. How are you defining your actions? Whether your actions are based upon the value system and the culture of your organization, and accordingly you are taking your actions for that matter. Whether you are subscribing to the fair path which are governed by the morality of your action. You have the ethics and value system of taking care of your customers, taking care of the ecology, taking care of the humanity, and therein taking care of the path of happiness for your stakeholders, your ethics of being in the business. What are the do's and don'ts in your action plan? What you are not going to bear as your own actions and also as the action of your stakeholders or even your employees. So strategy, in a way, is based upon the ethics and value systems that you define for your organization. And lastly, thus we can say a strategy is the fundamental of organizational success. Now, whenever we are saying that a strategy is the fundamental of organizational success, it is based upon the understanding of knowing you yourself as an organization. It is about knowing you and your marketplace. It is about knowing the trend of the organization. It is about knowing how are you going to formulate and implement your strategy. So, strategy is to the core of action, core of fundamental action at the ground level, how you are going to succeed in your business arena. We need a strategy. We require a strategy for ourselves. When we are talking of the strategy, we need to answer some important questions. And what those questions could be. The first aspect, what is the purpose of being of a firm? Remember, we had just talked about the ethical aspect of the company, which is defining the strategy, the value systems which are defining the strategy. Above all, when we are starting as a business, I need to know what market am I going to cater to? What is our purpose of being? Now, when we talk of a company like Amazon, their purpose is providing the convenience and services to the customers. The purpose of Zomato is to reach out to the customers at the earliest for providing them the food services. The purpose of Apollo is to provide the best of the healthcare services. Apollo Hospitals is to provide the best of the healthcare services. And if you see, when we talk of Tatas, they say we are building the nation. And based upon the definition of the purpose of being of a firm, the company chooses which area, the company chooses which market, the company chooses which industry they are going to be in. So, based upon their definition of being, they define the contour, how they are going to operate, how they are going to work, how they are going to be in the industry and marketplace. We will be working on understanding how the strategy responds to the dynamics of the environment in next phase.